Welcome to another episode. This is episode 6, and today we're going to be getting a bunch done on the bottom end on this Raptor 660. So we're going to start putting the bottom end together today and get some other things done. It's going to take a while, but hopefully we'll get everything together. The first thing that I'm going to start with, and I should have did it last night, but everybody says, a little bit of cold, a little bit of heat helps the bearings go in quicker. Absolutely true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the crank, and the bench is a mess right now. I've got stuff scattered everywhere, so this afternoon it'll look a lot better though, I promise. So we're going to take the crank and a few of the other bearings and the other main bearing, and we're going to put them in the freezer for a little while we get some other things done and get them nice and cold. And then we're going to go ahead and start installing the bearings on the cases, which I have right here, and I got to clean them up a little more. So lots of stuff today. Hopefully we get the whole bottom end done. There's a lot to do, so we are gonna get started and hope you enjoy the video. But first we've got to install some bearings into the bottom end and then after that we grab the rest of the stuff and we start installing everything else. So we're going to go ahead and get the bearings installed, and we're going to get everything laid out on the lift here. Get everything laid out on the lift and make sure we have everything. Set this up. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet or not. I may just use this table. It may be just a little bit easier. Great idea. Put lots of work into it, obviously. We'll see if it works. All the bearings back in and all that, and one of the big things with the bearings is there's a certain way that they go in. So each bearing has what they call manufacturer's markings on them, and they're on one side or the other. The markings go a certain way in the case, and those are listed in the service manual. So you want to make sure. So on this side, and you can identify it, it would be the left case. This bearing all the way in the back, the markings face out, so they face away from me. The next bearing next to it, the markings also face away, as do this one. So all the bearings on the left side of the case, the markings face away from you as you're looking at the case towards the outside. On the right side, the main bearing faces away from you towards the outside, as does this bearing, and then this bearing does as well, but this one comes in from the other side. But either way, the markings need to face away. Now these two bearings are different. This one towards the back, where my finger's at, this one, and this one here, the markings face in. So make sure that the manufacturer's markings on the bearings on these two face in. So you can also see that two of the bearings have retainers on them, and the retainer screws, the torque for the retainer screws is 62 inch-pounds, which isn't very much at all, but you want to go off of the manufacturer's recommendation as best as possible. On the outside of the right case, you have this piece here as well with two Phillips head screws. Those are 62 inch-pounds as well, as are the outside of the left case. There's this retainer as well, and these would be 62 inch-pounds. All right, so the next big thing is we're going to be installing the crankshaft. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so that was really easy. What I did was I put the crank, you can still see it's got still a little bit cold. I put this in the freezer for probably 3 or 4 hours, and then right before I put it in, I heated the case up, and it almost slid in without any help. I used a little bit of around the edges just to make sure that it was seated, but it went in there really well. Now there is a special tool that you're supposed to use, but this method's worked for me in the past, and pretty sure it's going to work this time. All right, so once you have the crank in, you want to actually flip it over, and we're going to install some parts from the outside. Install the neutral switch, reverse switch, and lower oil pipe fitting. All right, so to install your reverse shaft, it looks like this, and you got to go from the inside. There's a snap ring that goes on here. You got to go from the inside and slide it in like that, and it should look something like that. So it's on this side. All right, so on the outside here, you see the shaft is coming through right here. And then what you want to put down next is your washer. It lays just like that. Snap ring that goes on. Clips on there. This is supposed to go on there as such. On here, you'll notice that there's a notch. That's for the spring that's supposed to sit like so. We're going to put a little Loctite on this screw. We're going to install your oil fill. It goes all the way down here at the bottom. So you want your washer side out with the flange side in. That goes in the bottom there. And then we have your sensor right here. And this one goes in there. and these all obviously get torqued down as well. All right, so we got the reverse lever in, which is right here. And you can see the way the spring sits. You want one part of it on this side and the other one part hooked there. The oil connection is there. This is your reverse switch. It'll show up on your dash that it's in reverse. And this is the neutral switch. So this is the neutral switch. The bottom one's the neutral switch, and this is the reverse switch. The neutral and reverse switch, you need to torque to 15 foot-pounds. So those are 15 foot-pounds. The reverse lever bolt is 10 foot-pounds. All right, now we flip it back over and we install the reverse shaft assembly. That goes in as such, and on this we're going to take some, so I'm using for this build, like I said, the AMSOIL assembly lube. We're going to see how it works. Put some on the shaft that we're putting down. So the shaft, that you have your gear, you have a washer, and then you have a circlip, and then this is notched, and there's also a notch down in the case that this slides down into. Next, we're going to be installing the output shaft, and you can see that on one end it's threaded and has notches, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 splined gears. The two on the end come all the way off. You want to make sure that your washer is sitting down onto here, and the other end has a notch for a keyway. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to slide it into this hole, and we want to make sure that it meshes. We want to make sure that it meshes with our reverse gear that's already been installed. Obviously, whenever you're installing gears such as this or whatever, you want to make sure that they spin freely as you're installing them. So next we want to install the input shaft, and you have a moving, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other gears. In order to install this, you have a threaded end which stays up, but in order to install this gear, you have to temporarily, this big gear on the output shaft and the washer, you got to take that off so that we can get this down in there. And then this one comes up on top as such. This washer goes back on, and you can see that all the gears are meshed together. So the next thing we want to install is the shift drum. Obviously this end goes down into the case, and this is the top end, and it has a place for a screw and a little notch. Now when you set this down in there, there's going to be a spot for the reverse gear. Installing the shift the pawls, so to speak, and they have, or they should have letters stamped on them: R, C, and then L. L will go on the bottom groove, and you gotta look down in here and we'll see where they fit. So L will go there, and R will go on top. And then C will come on this side. Easy way to remember which way they go: L, R, and C all are facing up when you install them. So make sure the letters are facing up when they get installed. And then to make sure that they're in the proper gears, you may have to move some things around. Just reach down, pull up on the gears a bit. You'll hear them click in. And you have your two shifter shafts. The short one obviously goes with the one, and the other one goes in with the other two. again, you just got to move things around until everything lines up and it presses in. And that's how we should look. Next, we want to install the balancer shaft. The end with the threads is facing in, and the smooth end goes down into the case. Slides all the way down. So that's it for the left side of the case, and now we got to do some things to the right side. All right, on the right case, we're going to install our oil strainer. Goes in as such. And you have the second piece, and it has a notch on it so you know where it goes. Don't forget your thread lock on these screws as well. And they're to be torqued down to 62 inch-pounds. All right, so there she is. Cases are back together. Pretty exciting stuff for me. I used Yamabond, obviously here in the middle. You can see some of it squeezed out. That's kind of what you want to see. I didn't put all the screws in. I just put enough around to seal the cases up and let the Yamabond get a good set. I'm gonna powder coat the screws, see how that works out, see how it looks. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully I was able to help out. Hopefully this video was somewhat interesting. It was exciting for me to get everything back together and continue on to see how this build is going to end up. So thanks for watching episode 6, and we will see you for episode 7 next week.